Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet, or NDTR Shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine, and for the first time ever, we are featuring a college on the Spotlight, and I wanted to feature this college because, 2024 is the year that the master's degree is required for dietitians, and I know there's a lot of listeners that are doing the NDTR credential as a stepping stone, and we even have students listening to this podcast, and they're not ruling out that dietitian credential. So I wanted to bring on this college. They have recently adopted the future education model, and the way the design is, it just is fascinating to me. And I think it's going to be a great podcast for you to listen to if you are considering the dietitian credential. Today, we have Amanda, who is an assistant professor of the college and is very active on social media, here to sit and chat with us and give us all the updates on the new program they have. So Amanda, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here, and I appreciate you having me on. And I'm so excited to spread the news of us having this new, different, exciting, accelerated pathway for those who, if they want to take that step to being a dietitian, they can, and it doesn't have to be as complicated or as lengthy as maybe it once was. So
Yes. And I know when we chatted prior to filming, I was just so excited because it sounded like it was accessible. And that's like a huge thing that we need more accessibility to the dietitian credential if that's what people are pursuing. So tell us what prompted the change to the future education model for this program.
yeah, so there's a few different pieces of this. So the future education model has been on our mind actually for several years, kind of like looking at it, researching about it, seeing if it would be a good fit, what it was all about, because it's this totally different pathway that has been added. They started doing these future education model programs, I think in 2017 is when they began these programs through Ascend. So we kind of been monitoring them, doing our research, and then the accreditation process, takes some time. But why we wanted to add this is we wanted to, get more dietitians in the field quicker, for one. With this pathway, you don't necessarily have to have a DPD degree. You can have any undergraduate degree, or our program specifically, you don't have to have had completed a bachelor's. You just have to have 105 college credit hours, and then some of our other prerequisites.
Okay, I have to pause you there. I have to stop you there
Yeah.
because that is huge. Because usually I've seen is
Yes.
you have to have a bachelor's degree. It could be in anything. But you're saying you don't have to have a bachelor's degree, and a lot of NDTRs have associate's degrees. So that's why I wanted to really have you, Cox College, come on. So can you explain how that works for your program?
Yeah. So for our program, I mean, with the associates, I think that's like 60 hours. So you'd have to have like a little bit more. So maybe if you had some of your basic gen eds before, maybe it would help bring you up to that 105. But the way it works is whenever you come into our program, you're still getting enough credit hours to reach that master's level of credit hours that you need to have both your masters. So you don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's to get your master's, which was actually new to me these past few years when I was doing the research of the program. So with that, you'd come to with those, and you'd still complete your program with 150 credit hours to equal out the master's program. And then you'd have your rotation skills, and you'd be eligible for the exam. So pretty exciting.
Yes, and pretty accessible, which is so nice. And so I kind of cut you off there. So what were the other reasons for the change to this future education model you mentioned?
Yes. So other reasons were, there's this huge nationwide shortage of dietitians. Like across the board, you look online and everyone is there's not enough of us. We need more dietitians. And if we don't fill these spots for dietitians, there's not going to be like new positions created for dietitians. And I want as many dietitians everywhere as possible. So really to make that accessible and to, address the shortage, in addition to the masters, being required now, that would make it even longer to be able to help address these shortages. By offering a program where more people could apply to it, it's shorter in length. And, that's just, I think, us doing our part to address the shortage and, help the profession. So we're beyond thrilled to offer this, non-traditional pathway.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing because clearly there's a problem with accessibility and not enough dietitians, not enough nutrition professionals, not enough NDTRs, and you, Cox College, is like creating this program and pushing this out to have a solution, which I really admire. So let's make it specific for us NDTRs on this page. Why should an NDTR apply to this program?
Yeah, good question. So, a few like baseline reasons is it can open up more job opportunities if you are interested in becoming a dietitian, especially if you're wanting to get into like the more clinically focused jobs. We do have a clinical emphasis, and the master's part is in nutrition diagnostics, or accelerating on your nutrition diagnoses and making that very specific and measurable with that. Really getting into critical thinking skills and things like that nature. So that's one part of it. Our program specifically, I think for DTRs, which is nice, is you don't have to do the DICAS match. You can just apply directly to us through the college. And I think that's just like one less stress. Because I remember that process was beyond stressful, expensive, confusing to navigate. So I think that's just another really important factor of it. So Cox College specifically, we might get into this a little later with like specific experiences here. But yeah, if you're wanting to get in, our program is 3 semesters long. So it's very vigorous and accelerated. It's going to be challenging, but with DTRs, you guys already have this amazing background. Your boots are on the ground. You have like this baseline knowledge of what the therapeutic diets are like. You have great experience that you can bring to classroom discussion. And I just think DTRs would be an amazing fit for this program. And I would be so pumped to have any DTR in our program because of that experience, what you could bring to other students in the program.
Yeah, that's great. So like having that extra experience is always beneficial. And then the acceleration. So that's scary. I also want to say, I love that you mentioned the DICAS, not having to do that anymore. I think that's huge because we had an NDTR on the podcast who was an NDTR for 6 years and then applied to a program. So then having to go into DICAS after 6 years of being away and just being confused and not with peers who are going through it too, just applying directly to a college eases a lot of stress.
Yes. And there's no waiting either. Like generally, if you apply, we review applications pretty quickly. Like we're already reviewing applications that have been submitted for Fall Start right now. And we actually have an interview later today. So we try to get with you in a very timely manner so you can plan, because starting a program takes planning, it takes organization. And as the more quick that we can get you an answer for the acceptance, the less stress and pressure. The sitting and the waiting is just awful. So we're really excited to be able to take off some of that stress. And as a college in general, we're extremely student-centered and student-focused and want to provide any support and ease any stress, take away any challenges or barriers that we possibly can within our control for our students.
That is so refreshing. But Amanda, let me ask you a question. Just to combat that, what you said. So you used to be a 4-year semester. It used to be a 4-semester program, and you switched to 3 semesters for reasons that you've expressed. So with that switch, though, how can you guarantee that the quality of the education is the same or even better when you lost in complete semester?
Yeah, good question. So one, our selection process is, pretty in-depth. We want to look at, what your grades were. We want to look at what school you were at before, look at your reference letters. So in our selection process, we're going to be pretty thorough with that, because to, I think, accelerate in this program, because it's extremely fast track, because you're still completing the same amount of credit hours that we originally had with the 4 semesters, but you're completing it in 1 semester less. So you're just doing more in less time. So being pretty thorough with the selection is one part of it. The second part of it is, I think we really, when we created these courses, because we redeveloped a lot of the curriculum, we really integrated a ton of the RD exam prep throughout, and just making sure that all these key elements are mapped all throughout the program. So you're getting everything, the baseline is 100% covered. You're getting prep materials along with it, which is really important. And the whole future education model program is all based on the saying knows, shows, does. So I think what's really great about this program is like we're talking about it in class, we're doing lectures, and then we're showing that we know the information. We're doing tests, we're doing case studies, we're doing simulation labs, we're going into our virtual hospital. And then you're going to go do or does actually out in the community. And because it's such a short time, I think it really locks in that education. Whereas, maybe in previous models, if you took a class 5 years ago on food service and then you don't really do much with it again until later, it just might not be as like secured in our brains. So I think with that acceleration, we're seeing graduate program or future education model students come out with the best RD exam pass rates. And even though it's shorter, I think there's something to this model with this program, because that's exactly what other disciplines are doing. If you think about like physicians, OT, they don't have an undergraduate specific discipline program. They come from some science background and then they enter these accelerated pathways. So it's just very targeted. It's like very straightforward. There's no superfluous things that you're never going to use again.
So it sounds like you got rid of all of the fluff and you're like, let's just focus in and learn stuff.
As much as it pains us sometimes, because there are like little corners in dietetics that like we want to talk about, these, which we still have our contemporary nutrition topics course in it. So we still get to talk about some of those things, but.
That's good. So I think it's great that, because I talk with a lot of NDTRs, and what's really nice about being an NDTR is you're working in the field and you're learning the skills, and things are just you're just getting good at what you're doing. And it's nice that you said that, like, so you have your rotations, but you're also in school, and it's not like programs where I've seen in the past where you just do your coursework and then the next year you're just doing that clinical work. It sounds like it's kind of combined, so you're able to do the work and then have discussions and learn from it. So what does the semester layout look like for students in the program?
Yeah, good question. So your first semester, you'll have classes 3 days a week, all day. All of our classes are in person. So
nice.
This isn't an online program, which I think you really get
so much more
out of.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's pros to some hybrid or online classes, but there's something about being in person that's very helpful, I think, for me as a learner, I think, and as a professor and trying to help my students. So like 3 days a week, you'll have classes at first semester. And then because there's so many different students from different backgrounds, there'll be like a foundations nutrition course, which is also good if you haven't been in school for a really long time, like brushing up on some of those baseline guides or best practices, or learning about different community programs, or maybe that you haven't thought about in a long
especially time. If you come from working in food service as an NDTR, you need like a little refresher, So,
yes.
or if you're just
so
a refresher.
It's like a refresher of like all your baseline skills, I would say. And of course, assessment and critical thinking is huge. That course is just so important to make you the best, most empowered, strong dietitian you can be. And then your second semester and third semester, you'll basically have classes all day on Monday, or that's kind of our plan right now, is all day on Monday. Things are always changing, but all day on Monday from like 9 to 5. And then Tuesday through Friday, you would be at rotations, or what they call with the future education models, it's supervised experiential learning rotations. In that first semester, second semester, but first semester of rotations, it's all food service and community. And then you still have your coursework. And then your third and final semester with us, you have that class one day. And then Tuesday through Friday, you're all clinical sites. Which is great because if you're not too experienced in clinical, you've had a whole year of coursework to like brush you up, strengthen, answer all your questions, get you completely ready and prepared. Especially because we have the state-of-the-art simulation center where you're actually getting comfortable with being in hospital rooms. I know a lot of DTRs have like a ton of experience in hospital rooms already, but if they haven't, it's a great time to like, even introducing yourself to a patient or practicing the physical exam is huge because we do a lot of the both global and micronutrient physical exam on each other, but also community members. So yeah, a lot of prep to just make sure you're feeling extra strong for that third clinical semester.
That's great. So I love that layout. And I'm sure people are like, okay, this program sounds pretty good. How many students are accepted into the programs?
Yeah. So over a year time span, we're approved to take up to 30 students. So we can take up to 15 per semester. So this fall, we could take up to 15. But say maybe we only accept 10, that would mean the following spring semester, we could take up to 20, I guess, is what we could do. So it can kind of vary, but a general base is up to 15.
And that's nice
So
that you
quite a
have
spot.
spring and fall so that people can really plan out their life and figure out what's the best time to, dive into.
Mhm. I will say, if like you're planning to like still be working, I would say that spring start is kind of nice for that because spring start, you just have the coursework, especially if you're a DTR. A lot of it might just be a little bit of a refresher, or maybe, I don't know, it might not be as like vigorous because you're not in rotations yet. So you could probably still work your job pretty easily then. And also, it's just the 3 days a week over the 5 days a week. And then you have summer and you could pick back up and you could work more hours then. And then, fall and spring, it's a little bit more challenging because you're basically working full time and you're taking full course load. So just one thing to think about whenever you're looking at spring start and fall start, and making that best decision for yourself with that, I think it would be easier, but I don't know. Everyone's different.
That's true, but that is a nice thought process to like know that you have that summertime to work. So it's really just 1 year or 2 semesters where you really couldn't do the extra work because you're working, but you have more flexibility in the first semester and then that summer.
Mm-hmm.
So good planning. Yeah. I love that. That's you putting those students first. I guess you really know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, we really like to think about the students, like what's going to be best for you. Because of course we want you to come here, of course, but we also want to make sure you're making the best decision for you in that. And that means all aspects of it. So
yeah. And so in line with that, you're an in-person school. So someone would have to relocate if they're not already in Springfield, Missouri. So what have you seen students do with that? How has that worked for students relocating and handling the cost and moving to a new place for the program?
Yeah. So, well, I guess I can speak towards like our program previous to this because this is our first semester of the future education model. But before that, we had the master's and internship program. So what that's looked like in the past is, of course, it could be a little stressful, but we don't have an out-of-state extra tuition fee. So that's one great part. We do have a guide to give students on like, here's like some good options for housing. There's actually one person that works, his wife is a dietitian and he worked with food service for a while, but he owns 2 houses that he rents out to students. So those houses are nice options if they're not already being rented out. You can share spaces together, split the cost. So that's really great. But it takes planning and coordination, but we're always here. Like if you have questions, and we can also connect you with some of our current students. So maybe if you're moving here in the second semester, we can connect you with someone that's already started, but maybe 1 semester earlier, maybe they need a roommate. So we're always open to like helping you with that process and answer any questions that we can with that.
That's great. That's great. So then last question for you. What, if you had to say like the highlights or the things that really make this program, that you think were really going to make this program stand out compared to other programs, what would you say those things are?
So, of course, as I mentioned, skipping the match process, being able to apply straight to the college, which, by the way, we can mention it later too, but for your listeners to waive the application fee, it's promo code GP24. So just enter that in. So it would be completely free for you to apply to the college, which is really nice. there's that. And then, of course, we are affiliated with Cox Health, which is one of the largest hospitals in the Midwest region. With that, we have so many sites that have incredible experiences. We have a level 1 trauma center. We have NICU, PICU, cardiac rehab center, inpatient, outpatient facilities for like diabetes, bariatrics, Ozark Dialysis Center. We just have access to so many good sites. So you're going to see a wide variety of populations. And with that, we always prioritize our students where they want to go and get experience. We prioritize where you want to be and ask you, rank where you want to make sure that you get experience at, and do our very best to make sure that, everyone gets everything that they want as far as that looks. And then we are also well-rounded. So the community experiences, you're still going to get like to go to like WIC or go to corporate wellness programs or private practice. Or we've had partnerships with like seafood nutrition. So being well-rounded with the experiences is really important. Also, anyone doing the physical exam out there, the nutrition-focused physical exam, that's our bread and butter. We've been doing it since, I think, 2006, 2007. Cox College has been teaching it to future dietitians and students, so both global exam and micronutrient exam, and you get a ton of practice in that with our simulation center and virtual hospital, which the virtual hospital isn't technically virtual, which is very confusing. But basically, Cox has this hospital that used to be a fully functioning hospital, but it was actually donated to the college. So it still looks like a complete hospital setup. There's still the patient beds and rooms, the full facility, but we get to play and practice in it and kind of role play and get really comfortable with like our nutrition educations and again, doing the physical exam and, coming up with our, practicing different anthropometric methods and things like that. So I think it definitely makes us stick out. And then the faculty here is just incredible. I'm so lucky to work with them. And I think, as an alumni, and then our other students, it's just, there's so much support. It's like a little family here. And I just can't express enough how incredibly knowledgeable they are, and just very passionate about nutrition. And it's not a very authoritative environment here. It's all about support and, growing you to be the best dietitian you could be. So I just think that is one of the most important factors.
Yes, that's a lot of awesome key points. And I went to Cox College, guys. So this is maybe a little biased. And we took the critical thinking class the first semester, I remember, and we talked about biases. So I do want to acknowledge that bias, but I do also want to say when alumni come back, you're an alumni. When I was there, another professor was an alumni, and I've seen what my peers have done in the field of dietetics, and I think alumni speak a lot to the program. So I think what you said.
Yes, you're a DTR. We've had other DTRs in the program.
Yes.
And they've gone incredible places. Like, we love someone with a DTR background. Like, you guys are so experienced and knowledgeable. And it's just great. We've had DTRs that have moved on to work in pediatric endocrinology. They've done created their own private practice, doing like what you're doing. With the podcasting, and you've had so many experiences since the program and, working with federal government and things like that. So, and then where else? Medtronic Diabetes is another place, and just hospitals all over the country. So
just spreading everything out. And that's so true, because I know when I was there, I knew 2 NDTRs, which when you're an NDTR, it's very rare to know 2 outside of yourself. So you definitely do have NDTRs in the program. So Amanda, anything else that you want to add for the NDTR listeners before we close out?
I guess the only other thing I would say is, again, promo code GP24. You can visit our website, www.coxcollege.edu, and make sure when you look at programs, look at the M&D graduate program, because right now it'll still list all 3 of ours, and you can apply there. We have a few open houses coming up, but those will be recorded. I'd say the best way to get those is just reach out to me. You can email me at amanda.allen@coxcollege.edu. We can connect. I can either send you a recording, or I'm always open to just a quick phone call or a Zoom call, and I can answer any questions that you have.
And then also you guys are on social media, and the social media page is so fun. You get to see what you highlight what the students are doing throughout the semester.
Yes. Be sure to go over to at Cox College Nutrition Diagnostics on Instagram and follow along and reach out to us there too. And yeah, we're just so excited and can't wait to maybe hear from some of you.
Yes, and thank you so much for, putting the work in to make a program that's accessible for a lot of people in this country. So, and hopefully we'll have more dietitians and NDTRs. Hopefully this was an enlightful podcast for you. And please definitely check out Cox College, follow along with them. And thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in another Spotlight.